In this podcast, we aim to uncover secrets, stories, and methods of those in the forefront of movement practices far and wide. From physical therapy, strength training, mobility training, CrossFit, martial arts, and much more. We want to use this platform to explore topics we love to talk about with other professionals in varying fields to do with movement. A little bit about us: we run Flow Motion Fitness as a personalized online mobility and rehabilitation coaching service. We offer an online course for coaches, as well as retreats and workshops in person. This podcast started when we began doing Instagram Lives, so the first few episodes are taken from our first lives that led us down the route of exploration in all topics related to the health and fitness of the human body that influences controlled and pain-free movement. In this episode, Beatrice and I talk about the impact of stress on training and recovery. Hey!
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm good.
I was just trying to set up here my desk, which I'm trying to turn into a standing desk, but...
Yeah, I've only just managed to do it. I think I can flip the camera. Yeah.
That looks nice, and it's by the window as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. Although now that winter's coming, everything's kind of getting bright and the sun's at a different angle, so I didn't anticipate that one.
Yeah, I'm
cool.
It's okay. Yeah.
So shall we go through the questions we've got, or shall we go through a few of the side effects of what stress can do for training, just as a sort of background?
Maybe we could give a little background and then stop for a couple of questions, and then maybe go back to any other thing that people might.
All right. So shall we also do a little introduction?
Definitely. I think we should introduce ourselves briefly.
Cool. So Beatrice, do you want to just do a quick one?
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Beatrice, and I'm a yoga teacher, and as well as Pilates and mobility, but I focus mostly on yoga and mindfulness. So today our main theme is around stress and how it can impact our mental and physical well-being, and so I'll be focusing mostly on the mental, and Hallie will be focusing mostly on the physical, though they're extremely intertwined because mind and body, they're just the same, one and the same thing. So that's why we love working together so much.
Exactly.
And Hallie was also the one who introduced me to all the mobility work, so I am extremely grateful to her. And so we'll just be going over personally mindfulness, addressing to the root causes of my stress, which is both physical and mental, were key to getting really good workouts in, and as well as just living in a more free way. So that's why I'm really passionate about this, and especially as a former competitive athlete, I really wish I had this knowledge when I was back when I was competing, because I think it would have helped me loads, both in my physical performance and also to have just mental well-being. So I'm hoping that will help others today.
A lot of those reasons are why me and Beatrice over this whole summer period, we've actually been making a 3-month follow-along program for mind and body, because we wish first of all, when I first had my accident and when I was training competitively, I wish I had this information back then. And we realized so many things intertwine, and we've been talking about this for maybe 2 years now. Yeah. So we've decided to make a course on it. But what we wanted to kind of cover today is how these things intertwine, how they actually make a difference. And there's been scientific studies, hello Spain, scientific studies proving all of these things. So it's not just most humans have a very good intuition anyway, but it's nice knowing that science backs this up, and that is what the whole point of why we're putting this together. And today we're going to go over some of the questions we've been asked, but also we want to kind of basically just summarize what stress does to the body, how it affects your training, and how it affects your recovery. And then, a lot of people on the polls have been replying with yes, I agree, this impacts me a lot. So it's also, in a weird way, nice to see that you guys also experience these things, and that, you know, it's showing true with the polls that we're doing.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing when we start this journey is just to be aware of what we're experiencing. And so the fact that people realize that stress is maybe at the base of their of some of their problems, and they want to do something about it, that's the first step to actually then getting better. So awareness and mindfulness is the first thing.
It's actually crazy how hard it is to be aware of how your situation is impacting your stress. Because, for example, we all have quite busy lives. We have a lot of distractions. We've got a lot going on. Life is very fast paced right now. And we're kind of conditioned to ignore stress and ignore things like hunger or whatever. Like, we're just too busy for all these very basic things. And I don't know about you, but I remember a very specific moment where I was super stressed at work. I hadn't eaten. I was up for way too long. My manager was doing my head in, and I just started exercising as usual, and I tore a trap for no apparent reason, because let's face it, I was benching. You're not meant to tear a trap when you bench. And it was a strange injury as well at the time, and I thought, well, this is unusual. But looking back at it, it was pretty obvious what happened. It was pretty obvious I was overworked, underslept, I hadn't eaten enough, I was too cold. Like, all these things together, it obviously impacted my muscles quite a lot. And one of the major things that stress does is it tightens up your muscles. So then we, need to look into, okay, if we're super stressed and our muscles are aching, is this just a side effect of stress, or is there something actually physically wrong? Because a lot of the time, stress is causing the pain.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, a lot of times what I was being told is I had a similar experience, several similar experiences as well, where it was mostly my stress that was then bringing me to have pains or injuries. And what they were telling me was, yeah, well, it's just your stress. You're just stressed out. That's pain from your stress. And what I really want to get across is that pain that is due to stress is still pain. It's real physical pain. Like, we actually have physiological changes going on inside our body due to stress, which is linked to our hormones and how our central nervous system and peripheral nervous system works. But it's real pain that we have in our bodies. And so we have to work both from a mental and emotional point of view, and as well as a physical point of view, in order to get better and actually avoid that pain that we're getting from the stress.
Yeah.
So,
and the more and more, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So it's both work that we have to do as preventive care and work that we have to do as rehab. And again, it's rehab for the mind and it's rehab for the body. They go hand in hand, because we can't do one without the other.
Yeah. And I mean, part of mobility training is being much more aware of how every joint functions and how each muscle connects to the joint function. And so mobility training has a lot of sort of connections already with mind-body awareness.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you can go a step further when it goes to, addressing your whole lifestyle, and then addressing activities that you can do, brain activities and other sort of awareness activities that can help you just kind of hone in on, okay, what's going on? I need to slow down and figure out what's happening. And that's like, often when you are going through a random pain or a reoccurring injury, it's not usually something that's isolated. It's not just like, okay, this has happened once and maybe twice or whatever, and it's from a specific event. It could be actually very linked to stress. And that, say you've had an injury and it was obviously traumatic, most injuries do have some kind of trauma linked to them, then what brain activities would we recommend? So this is something that we actually cover in the course that we're doing. Every week you get worksheets to go through activities and awareness, and we'll go through that later. But what I was saying is, so the amount of people I've worked with who have had some strange pains or strange positions that their bodies do not like. And with more and more investigation, you realize actually that it's to do with some kind of injury that had a traumatic effect. So the traumatic effect can literally just be you were unable to move and in a lot of pain for many months. That's enough. That is super stressful on the body. Any injury is stress on the body, and it will cause the body to go into a, you know, recovery state. And that's another reason testing things like HRV is important. So yeah, there's lots of things there. And HRV is a great thing to check if you are basically going through CNS fatigue or chronic CNS fatigue, which I didn't even know that chronic CNS fatigue could be a thing, but a lot more of us are going through it than we think because of the amount we work and because social media is quite new and we're always switched on. So
maybe we want to explain like really briefly what CNS fatigue is, just for those who don't know. CNS is the central nervous system. And so basically we have, our central nervous system and our peripheral nervous system. And the central nervous system is made up by our brain and our spine. And it is constantly communicating with our body through the peripheral nervous system, which is responsible of both our voluntary movements and everything that is involuntary as well. And when we are speaking of stress, a really important part of our nervous system is the peripheral nervous system, which in particular is the sympathetic nervous system, which is our stress, is responsible for our stress response. So anything that causes real pain or perceived pain, or that might be a danger or threat to us, stimulates our stress response. And we can respond, like our body basically has two ways of responding to these situations, which is either fight or flight. So this is our fight or flight response. And what Hallie was talking about before, which is like our body, maybe we have a traumatic injury, so our body keeps score of that, and what happens is that it's either going to try to fight that or flight that. So run away from that. And what happens as a consequence is just tightening of the fascia, of the muscles around that area. Basically what we think of when you get a pulled hamstring or something, or you get a really tight hamstring as well. It's just a response from our body who is trying to defend itself.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about the stretch response itself, because the stretch response itself is actually a completely reactive thing. Never knew about the CNS before this. Oh, cool. So when you're unconscious, or like you're asleep, like you can move your body in any direction. That's why when you're put under in an operation, they can move your body in any range. But when you're awake and conscious, that's when you are afraid of movement becoming something that could hurt you. So back in the day, we would be moving all the time. The muscle spindles and the GTOs would be telling our brain, and basically these are little sensors inside our muscles telling our brain how long or short a muscle is, which is pretty handy if you're always moving around and you're a mobile creature. But now that we sit down a lot and we do repetitive movements a lot, so repetitive movement can literally be something like cycling, tennis, typing on your laptop, being on your phone all the time. These are all static or repetitive movements, and that is what is telling our brain what is normal. And when we go outside of this normal, that's when the brain will basically start freaking out and sending tightness signals, and it will accelerate essentially. I kind of wanted to go forward with CNS a little bit, but I kind of forgot now what I was going to say. There was something quite handy there. No, I forgot it. But yeah, so with the stress response, flight or flight. What's interesting is we also use up a lot of adrenaline and glucose, which is obviously what's used to power the muscles. So if you've, say, had a very, very stressful day and you've had adrenaline, you've been a bit shaky, you've, depleted your glucose levels, which is essentially your power source, you then try to train, you are depleted of glucose and you are more shaky, more likely to snack on bad things. And that is why stress and a lack of sleep is so related to weight gain is because you start craving things like glucose, which is, sugar essentially, to help you deal with all this. So it's not just the fact that you're more likely to get tight muscles. You're also more likely to deplete your muscles of their energy source. So stress seems like, oh yeah, I'm just stressed, it's normal modern life. But it's not, because if you can't kind of rein that in, then there's a problem, because all your energy and all your muscle tightness reaction is basically blowing up. So yeah, it's all around bad news.
Yeah, it's basically just a vicious circle that starts, and you have to try and find a point where to break it, because otherwise you just keep spiraling downwards. And I was saying there, how would you override the stress response? Well, what we go over in our course is basically this fact that you have to address the stress response both from a physical point of view and a mental point of view. So like physically, there are exercises that you can do to slowly and progressively get your body to accept new positions, for example, because also, for example, when we're stretching a muscle and we do so in a rash way, without giving our body time to adjust, that's when we get a torn muscle, because our body is freaking out. Again, it's a nervous system response. It's not really due to the muscle itself. If we were in a coma, for example, the muscle would be able to get pulled. So and from a mental point of view, there are lots of exercises that we can do through mindfulness, for example, which can help us to, first of all, notice what is going on. So the first step in any mindfulness program is always just to notice what is happening. So notice the thoughts that are going through your head, notice the sensations in your body, because sometimes we're so disconnected from how we actually feel that we then reach a point where we're so overwhelmed and we're like, what's going on? I don't even know why I'm getting hurt. I don't even know why I'm so tired. But if you actually go over it and you think back and you actually notice all these little signals that your body was giving you, they all add up, and that's what triggers the stress response. There are two types of stress response. There's an acute one and there's a chronic one. The acute one, it can be in many situations beneficial. Stress is important for our lives. I mean, that's just a natural reaction of our body to something that is changing. The problem is when this stress becomes chronic. So it just keeps on going, and it becomes so almost normal for us that we don't even realize we're stressed anymore. That's when the real problems start, because we start living with this condition as if it were our normal life, when in reality it's actually impacting our physical and mental health a lot. And this can be really important for someone who, both for people who maybe just move normally during their day and just get a couple of workouts in during their week and just want to keep healthy, but also for athletes or coaches who are using their body in a really taxative way. It's really important for them, especially to address these problems, this stress response.
I'd say anyone that trains a few times a week is in part of that bracket, because I mean, generally speaking, to have low stress, you would absolutely need to train anyway. Like, you can't expect your body to be completely fine without training or moving. That in itself, a lack of movement is a stressor. But when it comes to CNS fatigue and how stress actually accelerates that, there's so many side effects we are not that aware of. So we could have, for example, a week of very poor sleep or disrupted sleep, and we don't know why. It's just happening. We could have months and months or even years of inhibited muscle growth and be like, why am I not getting stronger? Why am I not passing through this plateau? Why are my muscles not getting any bigger? You could be, irritable, and you could just be like, oh, well, I'm in a bad mood today. But that bad mood is coming from exhaustion, or it's coming from a repetitive chronic stress. And more of us get CNS fatigue than we think, because I'd say our life is so fast paced that everyone right now is so busy trying to chase a dream, chase their side hustle, chase their hustle. Like, everyone is working hard. And I'd say, if anything, this generation now growing up with social media, it's kind of like there's even more pressure to take your passion and push it as far as you can, which can often kind of make you not like your passion. And that's basically just, you're realizing that you're overworking yourself. But it's the same with training. So if you're an athlete and you love training, you can actually train yourself into exhaustion without noticing it, because I'd say nowadays we never ever stop without a distraction. So it's not like we sit there for an hour before bed doing nothing. Most of us are on the phones or on it, like watching a screen.
Definitely.
We don't have time to listen. We don't have time to go, right, I need to sit down and figure out what's going on, what's stressing me out, what's you know, it could be a mental thing, but it could also just be an environmental thing. It could be, I do not have enough time on my own to de-stress and wind down before bed. I don't get good quality sleep. My nutrition's not on point. I don't have time to cook. There's all these other things that interrelate basically to CNS fatigue, and that all impacts your emotional side as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing about this is that it's exactly as it's coming out in our discussion here, is that there are so many factors to this, and sometimes it can be really overwhelming, you know, also trying to address all these factors. So you sort of have to try and find your balance between addressing all these different elements and not making that process even more stressful for you. So don't get stressed about trying to solve your stress, because that can also be an issue, you know. I've been through it as well. At one point, you sort of have to find a balance between what you have to do, what your passions are, your training, your nutrition. You know, there are so many sides to being a human being that we really have to embrace. Stress over stress. That's really what happens. Often with emotions, what's going on is that one emotion builds on another one. So like we're scared of being scared, and so that blocks us from doing some things. And with stress, it's exactly the same thing. So what I think is important is for us just to have really clear that there are these two big compartments, the physical and the mental, which are actually not compartments. They're one and the same thing, as I said before. And so if we really want to perform or excel or find our balance in the physical realm, we have to be careful, and we have to be aware of what's going on in our head as well. And what's going on in our head, as Hallie said, it can be something that is a reflection of our internal world as well as the external world. So of course we're not living in a bubble. I hope not, at least. But we have things going on around us. We have people around us. We have relationships. We have we have work. We have so many things going around in our lives, and we have to take care of those as well. We have to take into account how those are impacting our mental and emotional well-being, which in turn impacts our physical well-being. Yeah. And so the thing is that we really want to get across is this, that when you're training, and it can be an intense training, it can be more like just training for your health, but any level that you're at, you have to be addressing all these issues, because otherwise what ends up happening is that you are maybe putting in so much effort into your training because you want to progress, you want to get better, and but you don't. You just stay stuck, or maybe you even regress. And then you're confused because you're like, what's going on? I'm putting it all in and I'm doing all the work and still I'm not getting better, or maybe I'm getting worse, or maybe I'm getting injured all the time, or my recovery times are so long. Maybe you haven't thought of what's going on in the mental and emotional side.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why in the 12-week period in our program, we've kind of done every week we have something that you will physically and mentally work on. It's nothing huge that'll take up too much of your week, but it's enough for you to go, okay, I now have nailed this little aspect. And by the end of 3 months, you should have an overall picture. So, for example, in the beginning, week 1, I basically go through how to self-assess your own spine. And then obviously we're here, me and Beatrice are here to like help you with the results and stuff, and help you figure out how it works and what you're looking at. But we essentially try to teach you how to self-assess your body and self-assess your mind, and have these toolkits and these blueprints to use every single week in each compartment, so that you can use it, you know, on a broad scale. So someone asked earlier, how long does it take to hone in on stress, or something like that somewhere here. And really that is also dependent on the individual. And if you're a coach, then each one of your clients is going to be different as well. And it's worth assessing each client individually with different aspects. So quite often in the journey that I take with my clients is I leave the nutrition and the CNS fatigue side for a little bit after the beginning. First, we address mobility issues, the joints, but then really I can't ignore other aspects, because I mean, if I find out this person's, you know, super balanced, then I'm like, okay, they have it all figured out. I don't know how they've done that. That's amazing. We don't have to worry about it.
Kudos to that.
98% of people, there's something going on. Like, all our lives are so full of stuff, and so full of potential reasons for, you know, pain or bad recovery or whatever. So usually, technically speaking, nutrition and other mental aspects do also need to be looked into. And I know a lot of the people that follow us are coaches. So I guess, you know, for yourself, it's important, but for your clients, it's absolutely like, you know, you want to help them as much as you possibly can. And it's not just in the session. Everyone knows that what we do is not just in a session. Up from 6.
Bed at 11, constant stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you maybe need to address your sleeping patterns. There's a whole chapter about sleep hygiene as well.
Well,
so
yeah, we cover that. But I think me and Beatrice have both sort of firsthand dealt with all these issues to the point where something had to change. And I think it was about 5-6 years in a row that I was working in a gym environment where I was basically in a box all day. So like 14 to 16 hours inside, no daylight, no grounding, going to bed at like 2 a.m., eating my last meal at 1 a.m., just bad habits. And eventually it takes a toll on you. You feel like, okay, my nutrition's on point, my exercise regime is on point, and everything else is destroyed. Like, my body feels bad, my brain feels foggy, I am tired all the time, my stomach aches, all these stupid issues that really are only because you're working yourself in a specific way. So really, we shouldn't be looking at screens late at night. We shouldn't be working late into the night. We need to have a slow down. We shouldn't be eating meals on the go, which a lot of us do. There's so many factors that create stress on the body, and then say you're giving your body physical stress, it can end up coming out as emotional stress and irritability, and you don't know why this is, you know, you don't know which one's causing which one, because you have to really look at the whole lifestyle as a whole, and then go, right, so which one's affecting what? And that's the whole thing as a coach, and that's the whole thing as the 3-month period. We want to be able to teach you so you can kind of go, right, I'm going to use these worksheets here and there and figure it out for other people, because it's something I wish I had like years ago.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned nutrition as well. That's such a big part of our lives today. I feel like as coaches and athletes, you know, we're hearing so much about nutrition, and now people are very well aware of how important good nutrition is, and so we're getting sent all of these information about this diet and this new diet and this best diet, and this is what you should eat and this is what you shouldn't eat. But I feel that what is still missing is talk about how we eat, meaning not what we eat, but how we're eating it.
Yeah.
So if you're eating, you may be eating the healthiest diet ever, super clean, always on top of the game, but maybe you're eating it on the go in front of a screen, really quickly. You're not really taking the time to even savor what you're eating, and that is sending, again, a stress signal to your body. So what you may be eating something that's really nutritious, but maybe you won't be absorbing all the nutrients from that food because you're eating it so quickly that your body doesn't even have the time to actually absorb it. So a really important thing for me is mindful eating. So applying mindfulness to eating, to the moment where you eat. And I know that's really hard because all of us are on the go all the time. But again, as Hallie said, it's sort of about priorities. So you have to maybe just reflect upon what you really want to focus on in your life and what you really want to have as priority in your life, and then shift things around. And I'm not talking about leaving your job and like changing completely city and lifestyle and whatever, because for some of us, I realize that's not possible. But there are really small shifts that you can make that make a huge difference. And I think that's really what we focus on in our course.
That's the whole point. Like, one bite-sized manageable thing a week to learn is plenty. And when we're talking about all these stress responses on the mind and body, if you do check your HRV level, which I'm sure a lot of you do, but if you're not aware of what it is, HRV is heart rate variability. It's the variability between beats, and usually you have to measure it for at least a month to get some decent readings, and these readings are different for every person. So you can't just take the number you get and go, oh, this is good or bad. You have to look at your HRV reading as something relating to you only. And HRV is a good basically predictor of, you're ready to train hard, or you actually need a day off because you need some help with recovery. And a lot of people think, okay, rest day equals eating a lot of junk, sitting in front of the TV. That is not a rest day. What we actually mean with recovery days is light movement, relaxing, healthy activities to help you actually recover. And this is all something that you could test on your HRV. So once you do start measuring your HRV, you'll notice, how can you test HRV? Okay, so there are several ways. You can have things like a Garmin that tests it because it tests the variability between your beats. Or you can have a chest strap that I think both me and Beatrice have the same chest strap we use. We use Elite HRV, which is, I'll just show you the app. It looks like, how do I? Okay, well, it looks like this when you open it. And that's free, so you just need a chest strap, and then you check it first thing in the morning. And it will give you, a good idea whether you're in the parasympathetic or the sympathetic system. It's pretty handy to tell you, okay, today you need a recovery session, or actually, you can push really hard today. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, today's gonna be a recovery day. And it says, no, actually, you're really fine, you can go. And so you push harder that day. And then other days you feel absolutely fine, you're gonna push yourself, and it says, no, it's not time, something's wrong. But the interesting thing is it also tells if you are going into, like, say your body's fighting an illness. So especially when you're a young person and you're an athlete, you might not realize that your body's actually fighting some kind of, infection. You will have no clue. But the HRV reading will say, something's unusual today, you are fighting something. Good idea not to train, even though you might be well slept, absolutely fine, but perhaps you're exposed to something, especially nowadays, everyone's worried about their immune system. It's a good idea to know what's going on. So you go, okay, I'm not going to push myself. I'm going to take an extra few days of recovery sessions only because my results are showing me that I'm going into the disease state. And you'll notice a lot of people well into their 50s, 60s, that is when you get some serious diseases and some, cancers start popping up quite regularly. And this is like a modern day awful disease that we're all of us are potentially exposed to once we start aging, because the toxicity level starts building up in our bodies. One thing that could be super handy is checking your HRV level on a regular basis your whole life so that you know, oh, I'm fighting something right now. I need to recover. Your body is much less likely to be susceptible to diseases if you listen to it. Which chest straps would you recommend, Garmin? What one do we have? Is it Garmin?
Polar is pretty good as well.
Yeah. When you go on the Elite HRV app, they have compatible devices.
Yeah, I would check those because otherwise you won't be able to use the app with it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get the app without checking exactly which HRV device which chest strap you need. And also just bear in mind there's some like sort of issues with them. So for example, my one, I have to completely put water around my chest and the strap before making it work. And when I first got it, even that didn't work. So I put a thin layer of fairy liquid type stuff, like, you know, kitchen cleaner, which isn't great for your skin, but, you know, if you get an eco one, it's not as bad. But the point is you need it to be conductive. So I just make sure that my chest strap is always soaked before I use it, otherwise it doesn't connect.
I always have, like, due to my chest conformation, I always have problems getting it to connect. You really have to have it adhere to your chest in order to get a good reading. So that's really
well, that isn't appropriate. Yeah, so chest straps. Check the app and it gives you compatible ones. But I definitely recommend it. It's a life changer, really, especially for clients. If you've got like I can see you're a coach, so if you've got like a bunch of clients that you're training and you know, you want to avoid injury, you want to avoid them sort of burning out or like having a bad experience through training and kind of getting discouraged, the best thing to do is to get them to check their HRV. If it says recovery session, you do a recovery session and you don't push it, because that's the day that they could rip something, and it won't be your fault. It'll just be because they didn't sleep and they had too many alcoholic beverages the night before. But that's
and I think it also really helps because it gets your client used to being aware of what's going on with his body, his or her body. You know, you start getting them responsible for what they're doing, because it's as a coach, it's really nice to be able to guide a person through their progress and through their journey, but at the same time it's also really nice to start seeing the person who starts taking his or her life into his or her own hands. Sorry. So it's just about learning how to be aware and responsible for what's going on with your own body, while at the same time having a guide for you. You can have both of those things at the same time.
And the interesting thing is that app and that kind of testing system can really help you figure out what's going on in other ways. So for example, you could have had a stressful encounter the day before, or you could have a toxic person in your life, and you'll realize your HRV is looking pretty bad the day after or during that day. So you'll know, okay, I probably need to change that. Same thing with nutrition. Some people react better to high fat. Some people react better to high carbs. So say you may have a high carb meal. I know a bunch of people who have pasta and the next day their HRV drops really bad. So they know, I can't have high carb meals. I'm not that kind of a person. Other people, it's the other way around. But like as a coach, you can't, you know, do 1,000 allergy tests and all the, you know, nutritional DNA tests. You can't do everything. It'll cost thousands. So at least this is one way to be a little bit more aware of what's going on physically and emotionally for your client, so that you can better help them recover and better help them have a good, productive session that will actually increase muscle growth, increase skills. Their learning capacity will increase. So sometimes on the HRV it will say, oh, you had a really restful sleep and your HRV is good, your concentration levels and your ability to remember things will be improved. So it's nice knowing that, you can...
Yeah, what are the benefits of actually tending to this HRV? And, you know, you were speaking of all the emotional aspects of that can trigger HRV and like make it higher or lower. And there's like loads of studies on this showing how meditation, loving kindness meditations, compassion focused approaches and activities can help people actually to regulate their HRVs. And this is fascinating because, again, it's something that we're doing with our minds. Like, these are kinds of meditations that we're doing that are actually affecting our physiological well-being, our physiological parameters. And so there are so many things that we can do to actually help us recover better and just lower these stress levels. And then HRV is just a measure that enables us to follow and to track what is going on with our stress levels.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So did we have any other questions that we got through the...
I'm just gonna go up and check. Recovery work in the morning or evening benefits. What is it you're drinking? I was drinking a green matcha tea. So yeah, recovery work. I mean, recovery work, I would say, do recovery work when you need to do recovery work. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in the morning or evening. I would check when your body needs it. So there'll be days that you want to push hard, like we said with the HRV, and there'll be days that you want to spend the whole day just doing recovery work. I would almost say evening workouts are not as beneficial as midday or morning. There have been scientific studies showing that it's actually midday when you perform the best. That makes sense to me. And obviously you're putting your body through stress if, say, you are working out in a gym with artificial lighting, and nowadays a mask as well, well into the evening before you have to go to sleep and get up early in the morning. So if you're a coach and you've got a bunch of sessions back to back, and you don't know when to do your training session, or even if you're a coach that does 2 training sessions a day, try first thing in the morning and middle of the day. Don't push it to the evening, because that's, yeah, I know sometimes it has to be done. Like, you just got to get it done and you'll feel better for it. But if you can plan your day around it, that's where I put my training. And I'd probably choose to have clients in the morning and midday instead of evening, even though back in the day, I used to train people well into late night. My last session finished at 11 p.m. It was very late. And now looking back at it, I don't think it was a very good idea for me or the client, because at the end of the day, if they had to wake up early, that's just not great. So it's not going to be as beneficial.
Yeah, again, if you're tired, you won't be doing a movement session that is mindful. So you won't be there with your head, and you'll just be going through the motions, but you won't actually be registering in your head and in your body those movements. So you're not actually getting everything that you could out of your workout.
Another interesting fact, actually, is if you are underslept, so if you've had less than 7 hours of sleep, especially if it's 3 consecutive nights in a row, there's a quote here somewhere on this scientific study, we need to find it, but you basically have your stability muscles switching off, and you're more likely to have injuries. So if you think about that over the course of a year, say your client is coming into a session completely exhausted, they haven't slept properly for several days, and you try to train them, their likelihood of injury is so high that it's worth literally just doing recovery work, because you don't want to risk them. If you're a serious trainer that wants to get some serious results with your client, I know to a certain extent you have to push, because people are not always going to listen to you and get proper sleep. But realistically, you should have a serious conversation with them about sleep and recovery, because if you don't, inevitably one of them will at some point have a serious injury and they won't be able to, train for a long time. They'll be discouraged and they won't know why. They're unlucky, or people think, oh, I'm unlucky, I got injured. But injuries always come from something. It's either stress and pushing through exhaustion, or there's an actual physiological reason. So another reason I say everyone absolutely has to do joint assessments, and I would like to get to a point where all my clients can assess their own bodies. And it is complex. You do have to learn about angles of the body, but it's not impossible, and it's something that really we should be learning about at school. Like, part of the PT certificate has nothing to do with joints. They don't really go over how they function or what muscles correlate to it or why you need them. And yeah, sometimes people are like, well, what's the point of training hip internal rotation? Is it really that important? It's like, well, if you don't want a hip replacement, yeah. It is important.
Again, priority.
What? Change direction if you want to actually be an athlete at the top of the game. So like the difference between top athletes and athletes that keep getting reoccurring injuries is the only difference is their joint function and their recovery. And those two things, there's a lot that go into them, but at the end of the day, that's exactly why we're doing the course, so that we can cover all the joints, how the body works, get you more in touch with your body, and then get you more in touch with the mind, so you can look at the whole picture, and so your clients can be top athletes rather than the ones that are getting reoccurring injuries. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know if we...
Maybe you want to give like a really quick recap of how the course is structured?
Sure. Do you have it open? Because I don't have mine open on my phone.
Wait. I can get it open now. So, well, basically the course spans over 12 weeks, so it's 3 months of work. And we're not saying that with 3 months of work, you will be free of all your ailments and your stress, but you will have the tools that then enable you to actually keep going through this throughout your whole life, because this is what basically happens. It's unrealistic for us to think that we just get rid of all our stressors in life, because that's just not possible. Again, it would mean living in a bubble. But what you can do is actually to become aware of them and to develop the tools that will help you face these stressors in a healthier way. So that's what we try to do with our course. And so basically we divided the course in...
Part of the course.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
We forgot to say that every week you have a mobility workout. So you've got 3 mobility workouts a week. And how many yoga ones do we have?
You have 1 meditation a week, 1 yoga session a week, and 1, let's say, journaling session a week. Yeah. So you have like a theoretical explanation and then some writing prompts to help you maybe go through, like, for example, what might be stressors in your life, how you cope with those. So just questions that help you understand better how you cope with your stress and how you can face it.
Yeah. And on my side, I've covered 3 mobility and end range strength sessions a week. So you've got those, and then at the end of the week, you've got a worksheet to go through. In the beginning, we're going through joint assessments, and then we're going through things like performance optimization, CNS fatigue, how to increase your recovery programs and stuff like that. Combining the mobility, there really would be no need to combine the mobility and yoga workouts. So they'd be on different days anyway. So we've spread it out so it goes nicely throughout the week. If you're a coach and you do strength training and other stuff, anyway, this is something that you'd probably just add on. I wouldn't expect, it would be too much otherwise. And the mobility and yoga side are a little bit different. So you probably...
Yeah, all the yoga sessions are more centered around awareness of the body. So we're going through movements, but they're really gentle movements, and they're more geared towards getting you to really listen and tune into your body while you move, rather than getting a workout in. So yoga, the way I view it, is not the way that we work on our mobility, the way that we work on our strength. Yes, those can be additional benefits that we get from the practice, but we use the practice mostly to really get in tune with our own sensations and bodily sensation and emotional sensations. So
I'd say like these workouts that we've put are definitely, if you're doing strength workouts, you can do this alongside. The mobility training it's all gradual. So this is a template to gradually take you through all the joints, all the body awareness techniques that we have, and obviously you've got also the meditation side to it, which I'm excited to try as well. And then all the worksheets that we have are pretty handy because like, it's taken years and years of research to put this all together into something that's so condensed that you can use it, yeah, for yourself and for your clients, so that you have more awareness of whole body and mind.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is just our way of trying to put it out there to both athletes and coaches and anyone who is interested in movement in general, that you need to address both sides.
Yeah.
So
just FYI, this is up anyway. It's not going to be released yet. When I'll probably put some stuff on stories soon, but I think I'll try this week to be able to get a pre-order. That would be good. So it should be ready in a little while, not too long.
Yeah, I think by October we'll start rolling it out. So
you ready?
Yeah, you can just keep checking on our pages, and we'll be talking about it for sure more. And if you have any other questions, you can write to us, and we'll be glad to just answer you. And,
be on the pre-order. Just send either me or Beatrice a DM about it, and then we can, you know, put something together quicker. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything, roughly.
Oh, and all this material that you will be getting, it's for lifetime. So once you have it, you can benefit from it whenever you want. Again, this is something we want to encourage, that you go through the course throughout the 3 months, but that you then come back to the material time and time again, so that you really embody it, and you really accept it and welcome it as part of your life, of your lifestyle. You know, this is not about getting through these 3 months and just putting a check on it and going like, okay, now I've understood everything. No, it's actually about, it's a whole practice. So it takes time. So just be really gentle with yourself in this process of trying to address what your stressors are and how you cope with them, because it might be something that even takes you years to go through, but the important thing is just to start becoming aware of them. So again, we come back to the mindfulness.
Same with like the whole mind and body thing. So you just want to have awareness. So I don't know how to do I think we've covered all the questions. We're just going to scroll up to the very top and see if we've missed anything, but I think we're good.
Well, I had a question that came in when I put the question box, which was about chronic pain as well. I think maybe we can do another, eventually another live focusing more on really pain and how to deal with pain, but just very briefly again, at the base of chronic pain is this awareness that we get in our body and in our mind. And once you are aware of that pain, you can start also incorporating exercises that like physical exercises that help you deal with that pain. Because I mean, Hallie's story as well as my own, they show you that there are some conditions which doctors maybe etiquette or like they label as chronic and you'll never be able to move again. And then if you actually find the right way for your body to move, you can move again. And there are countless stories of that type. So that's from the physical point of view. And from the mental point of view, when you're dealing with chronic pain, it can be extremely stressful. Because if you're facing that pain with frustration and anger, and you just keep hitting your head against that chronic pain, and you're just like, oh, I don't get why me? Why am I always the one in pain? That's surely going to impact your stress levels, because you're not actually learning to accept that situation that you find yourself in. If instead you develop tools such as meditation or mindful walking, or there are countless tools that you can use to help you deal with that pain, so you don't identify with that pain anymore. Often when we're in pain, suddenly our whole existence becomes about that pain, because of course it can be really, really intense. But if we learn to little by little detach from this pain or see other sides of our lives that are different from that pain, it can really help in pain management. So I think that's another big issue around chronic pain.
A lot of things on that, and we haven't covered that, but maybe next time we'll go through.
Yeah.
Any other questions, please send them over and then we can cover them. Yes, please do more of these. Okay, we will do. Cool. All right, so I think what's going to happen is this is just going to time itself out if we don't finish up just about now.
Yeah, in like 4 minutes.
Yeah. So basically we've covered a bunch of things such as CNS fatigue, what impacts CNS fatigue both physically and mentally, injury risk potential and muscle tears, and how simple stress can actually increase muscle tension, and that can obviously lead to injury. What else?
HRV.
Sorry, Beatrice?
HRV.
Yeah, HRV, that was a big one. That's a great tool for tracking and analyzing how other environmental factors are impacting your training recovery and obviously your ability to train and what kind of training session you should be doing that day. But yeah, I think for most people and also for coaches, this is going to be handy. It's going to cover a lot of areas that you can cover with your clients. And yeah, if there's any other questions, please send them over and we'll write a little list and do another one of these lives.
Yeah, definitely. It was great talking about this. I think we could both go on about this for hours. So good thing Instagram Live is stopping us because.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So we will catch up with all you guys probably in a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, check out for our stories. We'll be giving information about the course throughout these weeks.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Ali. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.